So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much to ChemSec for inviting me here today. My name is Seb Beloe, as you've heard, and I work for a business called WHEB, which is an investment business based in London. And I'm just going to spend 15 minutes or so, 50 minutes, on just describing to you very briefly what WHEB does and how we invest. And then I'll spend some time talking about the work that we've been doing with some chemical companies, encouraging them to adopt a more proactive stance, if you like, on the issue of hazardous chemicals. Basically, this says don't go out and invest in a company based on what I say today. Okay, if you were ever tempted to do that, don't. WHEB is an investment business based in London. It stands for Wiley Hayworth Environment Business. I should probably say that. To our two founders, Rob Wiley and Kim Hayworth. And we are entirely focused on sustainability investing. We have a variety of different strategies. We invest in renewable energy infrastructure in Europe, so solar farms and wind parks. We have a private equity investment strategy which invests in small unlisted businesses, private businesses. Again, in Europe, they're all focused on resource efficiency, so typically helping manufacturers improve the efficiency with which they use energy and other raw materials. And then we have a listed equities strategy, which I'm spend most of my time involved with, and that's investing in large listed businesses, so publicly listed companies. It's all sustainability, so renewable energy, energy efficiency. In the listed equities strategy, we have a variety of themes, which I'll explain in a bit. And we have about 500 million euro now under management, so relatively small in the context of the financial services sector, but nonetheless a significant amount of money. Just very quickly, in terms of how we look at the world and how we invest, sort of background slide here. This is a chart that's taken from The New Scientist. And I'm slightly nervous showing this with all these scientists in the room. The y-axis is extremely complicated because we've got all these very different things plotted on the same chart. But basically what it's saying is that in the last 40 or 50 years, we've seen extraordinary increases in GDP, in economic activity, in population, in the consumption of various economic goods. Cars, paper are the two things that are represented here. And also in the environmental impacts of all of that increase. And so, whether you're looking at northern hemisphere average surface temperature, or species loss, or water use, or CO2 concentrations, we've seen extraordinary increases in those issues in the last 30, 40 years. This is all, I'm going to be provocative, largely irrelevant from an investment point of view until that gets translated into markets through regulations, through pricing signals, through consumer trends, through innovations, technologies, business models. It's only really when it becomes material in the context of a market that it becomes an investable proposition. And our argument is that we have seen that happen over the last 20 years or so. A little bit longer perhaps in Europe, a little bit less in emerging economies. But nonetheless, we are seeing substantive and sustained efforts to address these issues through regulation. And as a consequence of that, in part, we're seeing very interesting new technologies emerge that we can invest in as financiers. So in terms of the specific strategy that we use in our listed equities product, this slide just shows what we're basically trying to do is find companies that have a product or a service that helps to address an environmental or social challenge. And so we call this thematic investing, and these are the 5 environmental themes and 4 social themes as well. It's not purely environmental. There are demographic change, aging, populations that we also see as a huge challenge to society, and is also something that's generating growth for the companies that we invest in. So those are the 9 themes. It's all based around sustainability, and we're trying to find companies that are providing solutions to these problems. So just turning now to the chemical industry, I thought it might be worth just pausing and reflecting, really, at least as I see it, on the journey that the chemical industry has been on over the last few decades. Really from a, it was originally a very difficult narrative, I think, for the chemical industry back in the 1970s and 80s and even 90s. When I was growing up, issues around DDT and PCBs, Seveso, big industrial accidents involving chemicals. The narrative was very much one of the industry being a problem, creating these environmental challenges, and then perhaps more recently, with the focus on EDCs and the other things we were hearing about this morning, more of a health challenge as well for people. But I think increasingly there's also this other agenda around the industry being an enabler of solutions, whether that's in providing the resins and lightweight materials that go into the blades of wind turbines, or in the polycrystalline silicon that goes into solar modules, let alone, of course, the battery chemistries and lightweight materials that are going into battery electric vehicles and fuel cell electric vehicles and so on. None of that is possible without the chemical industry. I think we can all agree on that. So this kind of journey, and obviously I'm simplifying it, but I think nonetheless, fundamentally it's true where the chemical industry has been a source of problems and still is, but is increasingly also a source of solutions as well. So within our fund, there are a small number of chemical companies that we invest in. They tend to be the more specialty chemical businesses. These are the ones that we currently hold, so I'm sure many of you will know them. Just very briefly, Johnson Matthey is a UK listed business that makes, among other things, catalysts that go into emission treatment systems for cars and also for industry, but particularly for cars. Umicore, the Belgian company, has a similar business, but also recycles industrial sludges and slimes and unpleasant wastes that they can extract value from and reduce the environmental impact of. Ecolab is a US business that we put in our water management theme because they do a lot of work around water efficiency. And then finally, Praxair, which is an industrial gases business that supplies oxygen and hydrogen and other gases that help improve the efficiency of downstream users, such as the steel industry. So, these are 4 chemical companies that we see as providing products and services that help deal with environmental challenges. They're clearly not perfect. Both Umicore and Johnson Matthey have chemicals, candidate list chemicals, and also sin list chemicals. But overall, our view is that the products and services they supply are helping the world deal with some of the environmental challenges that we face. But that doesn't mean we ignore the issues in terms of their exposure to SVHCs and sort of regulation more generally around hazardous materials.